Hello, my name is Keone Franks, and today we will be exploring the legacy of Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers is widely recognized as one of the most influential figures in psychology. He is best known for pioneering humanistic psychology and developing client centered therapy. His work marked a significant shift in how therapists approached their clients, focusing on understanding the individual's personal experiences. Rogers' contributions were revolutionary. He moved the focus of therapy away from the therapist's authority and expertise and placed it firmly on the client's perspective. He created a more collaborative and empowering therapeutic experience by emphasizing empathy, authenticity, and respect. His principles of unconditional positive regard and self actualization became the cornerstones in mental health and even extended to fields like education and leadership. In this presentation, I will explore Rogers' life and background, the key principles of his client-centered therapy, and how this work continues to influence modern psychology. We will also discuss the cultural implications of his ideas, potential biases, and ethical issues. And I'll conclude with reflections on how his work can be applied to today's world. So we will get into Carl Rogers' background. Carl Rogers was born on January 8th, 1902, in Oak Park, Illinois. He grew up in a conservative Christian family which emphasized discipline and traditional values. These early experiences significantly influenced his later work, particularly his focus on unconditional positive regard. Rogers initially pursued agriculture and later theology as he intended to enter the ministry. However, his academic journey led him to psychology, where he found his true calling. In 1931, he earned his PhD in clinical psychology from Columbia University, where he developed many ideas that would shape his theories. Rogers' strict and structured upbringing heavily influenced his psychological perspective. Experiencing the lack of unconditional acceptance as a child, he later emphasized the importance of creating a therapeutic environment where individuals feel fully accepted for who they are. So, going into Carl Rogers' client centered therapy, Carl Rogers' major contribution to psychology is client-centered therapy, a groundbreaking approach that focuses on creating a supportive and non-judgmental environment for clients. The three core principles of this therapy are unconditional positive regard, empathy, and congruence. Unconditional positive regard means accepting clients without judgment. Empathy involves understanding and sharing their feelings, and congruence is the therapist's authenticity in the therapeutic relationship. These principles are designed to empower clients and foster their personal growth. Rogers' approach fundamentally changed the nature of therapeutic relationships by shifting the power dynamic between the therapist and the client. Instead of being directive, the therapist acts as a guide, helping clients explore their feelings and experiences. Beyond therapy, Rogers' ideas have influenced education, leadership, and even conflict resolution by emphasizing the value of understanding and authentic communication. Now we will get into the cultural perspectives. Carl Rogers' theory of self actualization is deeply rooted in Western culture values and prioritizes individual autonomy and personal growth. These principles resonate well in societies that emphasize independence and self expression. For example, his concept of unconditional positive regard supports the Western ideal of valuing personal authenticity and self determination. While Rogers' principles have universal appeal, they encounter challenges in collectivist cultures where the focus is often on community and interdependence rather than individual goals. In these contexts, his ideas may need adaptation to address the balance between personal growth and communal harmony. Despite these cultural differences, Rogers' approach has been successfully applied in diverse settings. For example, modifications of his client-centered therapy have been used in multicultural counseling to bridge the gap between individualistic and collectivist values. These adaptations demonstrate the flexibility and relevance of Rogers' ideas across cultural boundaries. So now we will get into the theoretical biases. Although Carl Rogers' theory revolutionized psychotherapy, it has been criticized for its historical limitations. For example, it did not adequately address systemic issues such as economic equality, oppression, or cultural discrimination. Critics argue that by focusing heavily on the individual, his theory often overlooked the broader social and systemic factors that shape a person's experiences. This emphasis on individual responsibility has drawn criticism for its inability to fully address the lived realities of marginalized populations. Over time, scholars and practitioners have worked to expand Rogers' theory to better address these shortcomings. Modern adaptations integrate multicultural and feminist psychology perspectives, making his approach more inclusive. These efforts focus on understanding how systemic and cultural factors influence personal growth while maintaining Rogers' core principles of empathy and unconditional positive regard. On this next slide, we will get into the ethical considerations. So, Carl Rogers' approach was ethically groundbreaking for its time because it emphasized respect, empowerment, and unconditional positive regard for clients. However, one critique of his theory is the lack of explicit guidance on navigating power dynamics between the therapist and the client. This omission is significant because power imbalances can affect the therapeutic relationship and the client's ability to achieve self actualization. In modern practice, challenges arise in maintaining unconditional positive regard, particularly when working with clients who exhibit harmful or dangerous behaviors. For example, a therapist may struggle to balance their professional commitment to empathy with the need to address such behaviors. Additionally, adapting Rogers' method to diverse populations present ethical concerns, as therapists must ensure cultural sensitivity while remaining true to his core principles. Next, we'll get into the personal applications. Carl Rogers' emphasis on empathy, unconditional positive regard, and authenticity has profoundly shaped my vision for my professional practice. Creating a supportive and empathetic environment aligns perfectly with my goal of fostering trust and safety for clients. Additionally, I plan to use congruence as a foundation for building meaningful therapeutic relationships. This approach not only helps the client feel valued, but also strengthens the connections between therapist and client. In the future, I plan to leverage Rogers' principles to empower clients towards self actualization and personal growth. His theory provides a framework for addressing systemic barriers in mental health care. By incorporating his idea into advocacy efforts, I hope to contribute to creating a more equitable and inclusive mental health system. To conclude, Carl Rogers remains one of the most influential figures in psychology. As a pioneer of humanistic psychology and the founder of client centered therapy, his work emphasized empathy, authenticity, and the importance of unconditional positive regard. These principles have not only shaped therapeutic practices, but have also redefined the relationship between client and therapist. Rogers' legacy extends far beyond therapy. His focus on creating genuine supportive relationships have influenced fields such as education, management, and healthcare. His ideas continue to inspire modern psychologists to prioritize the well-being of autonomy and clients in therapeutic practices. While Carl Rogers' principles are timeless, applying them to contemporary challenges require thoughtful adaptation. As mental health practitioners, we must strive to address systemic barriers, embrace cultural diversity, and maintain ethical standards while staying true to the core values of client centered therapy. His approach is not just a method, it's a philosophy of empowerment and growth that remains as relevant today as ever.